Hey guys, it's Joel, and I wanted to do another book review. Well, not review, but recommendation for books that I find useful in psychotherapy that I use a lot of the time. This book is that I'm reviewing or recommending now is The Hero with a Thousand Faces by Joseph Campbell. It's a really good book. If you're not familiar with who Joseph Campbell is, and I use this in a lot of longer term therapy. Probably wouldn't use it right away in a shorter term uh, goals, shorter, kind of real acute problems. But if you stay in therapy long enough with me, it probably comes up. Joseph Campbell, if you're not familiar with him, is a mythographer. He studies mythology and depth psychology, which is kind of the deep unconscious drives in humans that come out through the way that we make meaning out of life through myth and religion and personal spirituality a lot of the time. So he's studying, he kind of writes it in the 50s, and then it gets really famous in the 70s and is very influential then. But the premise of the book is that if you go through mythology as like a tradition, that there's kind of, when you have the kind of self-development myth of somebody going on this journey and accomplishing something, that there's really only one myth. That there's kind of he calls it the hero's journey or the monomyth, that there's this wheel. And a lot of 70s and 80s fantasy picks this up and runs with it because he's so influential then. So the idea is that you have this person who's sort of called to adventure, that the forces of their world say, no, anything else is bad, don't cross the bridge, this is your life, this is reality, there's nothing bigger, there's nothing better than this. And they're kind of called into this supernatural or larger world of the unconscious. And there's guardians that say, no, don't go onward, don't go forward. You know, in The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, they say, no, look, Lucy, look, the back of the wardrobe is just wood. There's nothing else. In Star Wars, I think, what is it? Luke's uncle is like, you can't leave the farm because reasons. And then eventually the hero breaks through these guardians. This would be like in the Odyssey, Telemachus or Odysseus is getting on their ship and they're starting to leave and they're going down into a larger world. And so they go on this adventure and they slowly start to face the evil kind of demons of the adventure, and then eventually they break through to the very bottom realm where they think they're going to fight this thing that is separate from themselves, but really it's just representative of a part of themselves that they don't want to see, that they don't want to integrate. Odysseus goes to the underworld and he sees all of the damage that he's caused. He sees that his mother has killed herself. He sees the underworld and ultimately kind of the meaninglessness of the war that he's been in, as all of these shades and Hades are calling to him. And then if you read the Aeneid, I think Aeneas mixes kind of the blood of the ram and a ewe and has this golden bow, and then he goes down into the underworld. And so like in contemporary fantasy, there would be this thing like Luke discovers that Darth Vader is not actually this big evil, it's actually his father. You know, something you don't want to integrate, and the character is kind of at their lowest point there. And then later in the myth, they integrate that and they come back to the world with this kind of knowledge of themselves that other people don't have, that makes them kind of like a mage or a wizard or someone who's halfway in this world and halfway out of it. They have this wisdom that makes them not quite fit in with other people, but also be influential in the world. And that idea that it's our job to go into our deep unconscious and understand ourselves and obtain wisdom and come out with this knowledge of the self that is not really an intellectual wisdom, but it's kind of a knowledge or a truth, is that idea is built into our deep unconscious. Is kind of the argument of something like The Hero with a Thousand Faces. Maybe not directly in the book, but definitely the way that it's used later. And it's very influential, even if you completely disagree with that. And there's a lot of people that do, that say, you know, this just mythology has a meta-narrative that doesn't have anything to do with that, or it actually is coming from this other structural place, or whatever. You still probably need to read the book because it is one of those things that influence so much. So, I don't know, check it out if that sounds interesting to you. And if you have a question, let me know. Appreciate y'all listening.